My child's name is Garrett Say, and he's 5 years old.
My daughter's name is Eden, and she's 4 years old.
My son's name is August, and he turns 5 today.
Eden will enter kindergarten this fall.
He'll be entering kindergarten in fall 2012.
My child is entering into kindergarten fall of 2012.
My hopes for Eden in school are that she can go and have fun and be with the friends she's already made through preschool and friends that she's yet to meet.
He'll make friends, he'll get a great education.
Well, I hope for him to be included and make friends and be happy and be safe and learn a lot and thrive and be part of his community.
My fear for my son in kindergarten is that he will be looked upon as his label and not for what he can achieve and what he can become.
One of my fears is that she'll be judged before she's met, whether by teachers or administrators.
That he'll be left out of things.
That people will not meet her and see her for her, but judge her for things that are out of her control.
This is my son Garrett, and he has autism.
This is my son August. He has a terminal deletion of chromosome 7.
This is my daughter Eden, and she has Down syndrome.
Could somebody explain to me the benefits of segregating people? Can we have a look at where did the good stuff come when we segregated folk? We've learnt more. We've learnt that that didn't work.
Segregation in this context leads to social isolation of children with disabilities, which carries over their entire life.
One of the great leaders of advocacy talks about loneliness being the biggest disability.
And if I was to say what's the hierarchy of need for children, belonging would be first on the list.
I think kids, if they don't feel that they're a part of something, they develop a loneliness that just can't be fixed.
Well, I think it's kind of stupid be segregated into something, it's not real. I'm saying it's not real is because, being in a subject classroom and looking what's around you, it seems kind of stupid that way.
The message to those children in the self-contained classroom is, you're not really equal. You don't get all the privileges of this school. The privileges of the hallway, the privileges of going to the toilet by yourself. The message to the non-disabled kids is, you should be nice to them, don't make fun of them, but they're not really part of your life.
Journalists are saying that people with disabilities are stupid, they can't learn, they can't function in life. I got 2 jobs already.
The civil and human right of my child to belong is just absolutely at the forefront of my mind. I have 2 children. Why do I think that one of them belongs and the other one doesn't? They both belong. I think it's a really critical thing of our time that we need to just stop segregating. It's a passé notion. It's something that's been more than proved to be unhelpful to us as a civilized society.
I have 2 daughters. One has a developmental disability, one does not. The one that has the developmental disability, before she could go to school, she had to be tested and evaluated and labeled. And she had to do therapies and this and that and the other thing. And then we had to have an IEP. And then we had to have a placement. And then the school had to go through its traumatic breakdown to find out a kid with Down syndrome was coming. My non-disabled daughter, we just dropped her off.
If you've got a child with a significant disability, then there's a team of people will decide what services your child will have and where your child will go to school. And that's a big disempowering feeling, I think, for people.
The cohort is a group of parents or family members that have gotten together that have a belief that their child should be included in the general education classroom throughout their educational career, so that they benefit both from exposure to their peers as well as a strenuous, continuing, age-appropriate curriculum.
We just did one that was about IEP goal writing and what the IEP document means, and that's an individual education plan, which is an incredibly important legal document that's going to decide a lot of things for the year ahead for your child. But parents generally would go into that situation without understanding or having that unpacked.
What does this mean for your child? What does an appropriate education mean? It means we're going to take you from the present level, wherever your child is right now. We're going to write goals to where they're going to be in a year. And appropriate education is going to be what gets them there.
What the anxiety y'all have when you go to an IEP meeting is all about placement. I get that. The big mistake a lot of people make is they come barging into the room and go, oh, please don't send us to a self-contained classroom. And that gets us off to a bad start, because that's not the order. There is an order to these things. And the order is that you adopt goals. Never write a goal that a dead person can meet. Now, by that I mean, Alicia will sit quietly in her chair, who, as you can see, is already non-compliant, is not a goal. That is a post-mortem descriptor. Goals need to be written in an active voice.
My daughter is 5.5 and started kindergarten in September, and my husband and I are graduates of NWDSA's first Kindergarten Inclusion Cohort, which we did the year before she entered kindergarten. The cohort really gave us the language to go into the IEP meetings and talk with the school on equal terms. I didn't have a lot of the sort of nitty-gritty tools that you need to help your kid be successful in the classroom and advocate successfully. So the cohort gave us that. It gave us language, it gave us tools, it gave us really concrete ideas that we could share with the teachers.
The first time you go through an evaluation process, they have to have a team meeting to kind of talk about which evaluations they're going to do. You always should be a part of that process. One of your biggest tools is to request an independent evaluation. It's only in response to a district, conducting an evaluation that you disagree with. But at that point, you can say, I'd like an independent evaluation. The district either has to do that or they have to take you to a due process hearing, which I promise you has happened maybe once in the 12 years that I've been working.
9 of the 10 people did get the placements that they wanted, and felt more than just getting the placements they wanted, they felt they'd been an active part of the team that was on an equal footing and had got valuable information to share about their child.
Well, the first thing to understand about the rights of children in special education is that it is the intent of Congress that each child will have an individual plan made for he or she that will outline what they're going to learn over the next year. Once that has been accomplished, they are to be placed in the least restrictive environment, meaning that they are to be in regular classrooms unless there's some reason not to be. That's the law. That's the intent of Congress. And that is a stated policy of the United States. It's just not reality.
What happens is in our education systems, there's a lot of latitude on how that's interpreted, and there's not a lot of enforcement. So the reality is there's a continuum between some districts where kids aren't included hardly at all, and you have other districts where all kids are included, and a huge variation in between. But there's no enforcement action. There's no systematic way to address those inequities amongst districts and amongst classrooms throughout America, and it's a huge issue, and part of the reason the parents struggle to get their kids included, because there's no it's not been completely embraced by our culture, and then it's not enforced. The law itself is not enforced.
Studies have shown that children that are educated in segregation tend to go on to live lives in segregation. And I don't want that type of life for my child, and I don't think she wants that for herself either. She models herself after her peers, and so having a group of kids that are typical developing around her helps her learn how best to be in that society.
I mean, my child, he's a visual learner. So what do I want by way of visual models? I want him to be in a class with kids that are typically able-bodied and learning from them, around them, seeing what does it mean to be a 12-year-old is his task as much as school right now. And if he was in a self-contained classroom with nonverbal children or children with lots of different behaviors, that wouldn't be as rich an environment for him. And to be honest, his classmates value him in the class, and it wouldn't be as rich an environment for them if Daniel wasn't in that class.
The kids that she's in school with, who are getting to know her from the get-go, are also going to be her potential co-workers, employers, the politicians who are, building the policy in the world that she grows into old age in. And for them to have had her in their class and to have known her intimately since she was 5 years old and since they were 5 years old, they'll remember that at some level. And I think those are the kids who are really going to change the world, who you're really going to see the results of the work we're doing now.
I took a year for biology, and I've studied and took tests and finals and everything to learn about chromosomes and pathogens. And what happened was that I passed all my testings, and I got a real diploma, graduated, just like everybody else did.
It just is asking a little more creativity, and we're going to have better teachers if we have more inclusive classrooms. We're also going to have children that grow up knowing each other and don't see a child with a disability as that stranger that is in a classroom at the end of the hall and is a little frightening perhaps to them. Instead, it's, oh, that's Daniel and he's good at basketball and he's not so good at math, but he can help me with computers. And I think in one generation, we could really change a lot. I think that the issue of kindergarten inclusion is a major civil rights frontier.
What is so terrible about segregating people into specialized classrooms is that you have segregated people into specialized classrooms. That's what's wrong with it. It's the exact same answer that I would give you if I was arguing Brown versus Board of Education. There is no such thing as separate and equal education.
The world is not an easy place to live in. Sometimes you have to fight for what you want and how to get along. I really think that everyone should be included in life,
We are going to get there, and I know I'm going to see my son Daniel get there, and I just hope everybody else that has challenges like Daniel gets there too.
I feel extremely clear in my mind that the 21st century requires us to accept the humanity of every child and the fact that they can learn together and truly should belong in the same community together.